This arrived today, plastic box. I bought it on eBay. I've got a feeling it came all the way from China, which is ridiculous, but it seemed to take 10 days to get here, which does suggest it came from China. They seem to sell them either as waterproof or dustproof. This one was said to be dustproof. You get this strange wormy thing with it. I'm assuming that this can be squeezed into there, but obviously I have to have a play with that to get it to do that. And it's come with some screws. Now there are what, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the lid. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I've got 4 screws for the lid and 1 odd one. And I wonder if the 1 odd one is meant to be 2 odd ones. In other words, I wonder if I'm supposed to have a screw for there and a screw for over there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And down through there, which I'm not sure it's going to show up in this light, but and again there and there and there, there is a hole to drop a screw. It would come out there, there, there and there, so that you can screw this down. I'm going to screw it to the wall. And why do I want this? I want it because of my Meanwell power supply. That is going to sit in there. And the reason it needs to sit in a little box like this is just to keep people's fingers away from these terminals, because at this end I've got live, neutral and earth, and obviously 2 of those are dangerous. I've seen some of these for sale with like a little plastic cover that clips over and stops you touching that, but this one doesn't have that. But I would prefer it to be in a box where you can shut the box anyway. What I need to try and work out is how is the best way to mount this into this box, and it looks like there is no good way, because I've got the possibility of getting a screw in that corner there, and it would just about line up with a fitting that's there. I don't know what that is supposed to be though. And then it would not line up with anything over here. There's a hole down there for it to line up with, but there's nothing in the board, in the box, for it to line up with. So there's nothing that would hold that to line that up there. It will go and screw on this part here, which I think is being used as a heatsink, so I don't really want to screw that part to the plastic case. I want it to have air movement all around it. So I'm going to ponder this for a little while. Clearly I'll need a hole cut in the side to put the cable through, so that's another thing, and I'll need some other holes here for cables to come out. I think probably I'm only ever going to run one 12-volt cable out, so I might put a couple of plugs in here so that I've got a plus and a minus plug that connects straight to here for my 12 volts out. But I do need to work out how this is going to come out. Right, I've made a sort of mounting plate out of a bit of old, well, I guess you'd call it pegboard really. It was for holding tools. You can see that's where it mounted. I've just left that there. Hopefully this is going to fit in here. I haven't tried it yet, so you're going to find out with me. Oh, and it does sort of. It's not quite the right length. That's because I just took a piece of it as the length it was. So I'm going to need to do something with the end legs to sort of splay them out a bit so that it will get past there. Think. Oh, if I'd cut it the other way around, of course I could have made it any length I liked, but I went for width rather than length. So I need this bit to stick out. You can see it's not exactly tough metal. So I need that to go out a bit. Don't worry about it. I'll do it tidy in a minute. I just want to get an idea of... not sure whether that will do it or not. Because either way you look at it, those screw holes are not going to be in the right place. And it's buckling the whole thing where I've bent it. I could bash those flat, I suppose, and then trim the edges. Right, I've bashed that out flat, so that used a curl under, and I've taken about 6, maybe 8 mil off the side. Hopefully, yeah, that'll fit in there. Cool. Now, why is it rocking in the middle so much? Because it doesn't want to go down to meet those, does it? Because they are a lot further down. That's why. So I don't think that is a problem. I think that's about the same height. Oh, cover your ears. Yeah, I don't think that's sticking up very far. I think perhaps in an ideal world this could do with going down flatter, couldn't it? So it sits on those. So this bit could do with being lower. And that bit could be doing with gone. Right, well that was something I don't want to do again in a hurry. I've managed to rip a hole through there, almost rip a hole through there, and almost rip a hole through there. And where I've trimmed these on the side, it's not a brilliant trim, and it's possibly worse this side. There you can see where it tried to rip through. So not really working out as nice as I'd like it to, and this side seems to be shallower than that side, despite the fact that I thought I was doing everything in the same spot. But it does fit. All I've got to do now is work out where these holes need to be, because when that's there, it might not be possible to see, but just right on the edge of that hole is where that one needs to be, but this one over here I can't see any sign of. If I move it this way a bit, yeah, so it looks like it's lining up with those two holes. So I think if I make those holes slotted, that will be the answer. Right, holes slotted, sides have been trimmed, so it's now sitting down almost flat. Bolt in each slotted hole to hold it still, so that's in. Now this obviously has got to slot in here somewhere, and I just need to work out roughly where. Now the holes that have been left by Meanwell are going to put it right at the edge of this plate, which that's one there and one there. So that is a bit of a problem. I hadn't realised that. But I can't get to. I suppose I could do it from the underneath. I don't know how I would line it up. There are a couple of holes on the underneath. But I don't know. Let's try making a mark and see where that mark would come out. Is that going through? Yes, I think that's gone through, and this one's slightly slotted. Well, it's not slightly slotted, it is slotted. Right. Now if we lift that out, so we need a hole. Yeah, I've got a red mark in two different spots here, that's not very useful. Apparently I've got a hole there. And a hole there. both of which are almost on top of one of the plastic studs. That's not helpful. Right, I've drilled an M3 hole and I've got an M3 bolt which I can't get the nut on, because no matter what I try and do, it falls off. Well, that's alright this end, because this thing is slotted, but it's only slotted at one end. So we can do that, like that. I think that's going on, and that can go under there. But what are we going to do at this end? Because this end is not slotted. Oh, there we go. Mind you, is it possible I've got a bit more room to put this on? No, I haven't got any more room, let's see, can we do it with a pair of tweezers? It's just such an awkward spot to get at. Nope. No, don't go in there. Just trying to go inside. I think I'm going to have to turn it from the other side, aren't I? That's just the only way it can be done, I think. I'm going to have to try and hold that there as best I can. Get a screwdriver on this side. Right. Do it up from this side. So it'll have to be one of those things where you have to take the plate out to do it, and then it'll be the same with this one. This will have to be done up from the rear side, except that doesn't want to turn. Come on. Ouch, it's pinching my fingers. Right, go on there. Oh, it's not quite in the right spot, but it's close enough. Right. Yeah, I think that'll do. It doesn't need to be rock solid because it's... Oh, I've got room for my fingers. I don't want that to go crashing down. Right, that's that. Let's get these little screws in there now. Well, these go in with all that in the way. Right, just do that one loosely. And that's the one down that end is in. Right, now does this all look like it's more or less even in there? I think that's probably as good as it's going to get. Right, tighten that. Tighten that. Right, now we just need to work out a way of getting the power wire, this thing, into there. Right, by my reckoning, if I drill a 6mm hole there, this wire should go in through there. That's a 6mm wire. Might have to take it out to 7 just to be on the safe side. And then I've got these to use to hold plugs, and I need an 8mm hole for one there, and an 8mm hole for one there. And then we can just plug 12-volt tools straight into there. That's the theory. I'm just going to drill some 6mm holes to start with. This is one of the drills that I converted to lithium iron a long time ago. but it really could do with a better chuck. Although I have found that with my Bosch 12 volt drills that the chucks are just not very good. So just putting a new chuck on might not be the answer anyway. Right, this is an 8. I've taken the power supply out, obviously, because I don't want to risk drilling a hole straight through the power supply, which is something I could easily do. I think that must be getting a bit blunt, judging by the way it's done that. Never mind. We just need to tidy them up a little bit. Right, there's a tight fit, that'll be power lead fits, and these, they're going to fit okay. Right, that's earth, neutral and live on there. Green and yellow for earth, blue for neutral, brown for live. I think all of Europe and Great Britain use those colours. Now I just need these to connect up to minus 12 volts and plus 12 volt. Right, here we've got plus to the plus terminal and minus to a minus terminal. Red for plus, black for minus. There's our power in. I've just put a cable tie on for strain relief, but I've seen that on lots of things that I've bought, so it seems to pass muster. And then there's our 2 plugs on the front for power out. I'm not going to fit this all up yet, because when that's on, I think heat will build up inside here. So I think this needs multiple holes drilled in it as air vents, and I may look into putting a fan on here and maybe some holes in the side, or even a fan at this end. So I'm going to hold off on that, so I'm just going to leave the top off for now, which means of course silly fingers can get in here and touch this, but with a bit of luck no one will come in my workshop apart from me. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up, but assuming it does show up okay, I'll show you on the other side what I did. Right, this is what I'm doing. I've marked out a grid on this piece of paper. I'm hoping it's in line with the one on the other side, but I mean it might not be. And then I'm punching through with a pointy thing into the plastic. So this is marked. All the points are right now. On the next now what you take this I'm just going to I'll probably for this on that. I don't know how close to get to the might be able to hear them. I've just unbolted everything because I want to lift this out, because I don't want to drill holes in the side while this is sitting in there. Because the holes, they go in there. And the idea is to have air come in here, flow through, go out there. Need some way of getting the air out here. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the first 9 holes drilled. I'm not sure if they're going to be big enough or whether I need to make them a little bit bigger, but worry about that later. I don't think you need to see me drill the rest. Hopefully the holes are much more obvious now, and if I was to put a light in there, you can see them much better. So air will be able to go in there easily, and I think 2mm for the holes will probably work okay. You can see the same there. Every time you put this down, because of static electricity, it gets covered in bits of plastic, dirt and dust, but there you go. Right, I just need to put the innards back in now, because I still haven't got a fan for this end. Because obviously I will need a fan here, because I want air to come in here, draw over the surface or through the surface of it or whatever, out this end, so that it always stays cool. Of course, some idiot put the bottom fixing nut right where you can't reach, because the negative wire goes out at that point. I'm trying to get a thin screwdriver in there just to position it. But this screwdriver is way too small, but I can just get into it and tweak it tight. And this one again, it's too small for this end, but it will just do it up. So as long as we're going gently, we're okay. These just arrived. They're smaller than I was expecting, only because I'm an idiot, because they're 35mm, which of course is 35mm. That one seems to have got a piece broken out of the corner of it there, which is not ideal, but don't think it's affecting it going round. They're 12 volts. Given the size of our box, the idea was to have them there. Now it's either going to be one in the middle or two side by side, but I might go for two side by side. It's hard to see on here, but it says 0.15 amps, so two of them we're looking at a third of an amp, so I don't think it's going to matter if I connect these straight to the 12 volt output on here. I think that will be fine. So I just need a couple of holes in here the size of that, and that presumably is not going to be far off 33.5, give or take a little bit. If we had a hole somewhere in that region, 33, that would sit over it. I'm not sure which way round this has got to sit, because obviously I want it to blow air from here out, so it's blowing out that way. So they've either got to be that way or they've got to be that way. I don't have any need for these plugs, so I'm going to snip them off, and then I'll just join the two of them together in parallel. I'll just put a little bit of solder on it. That's that one. And then that'll do for that one. I'll just put a little bit of heat shrink on the joins. Right, it can test its own fans, so if I get that underneath there for plus, this one under here for minus. Obviously the fans are 12 volts and this is a 12 volt power supply, so I didn't have any trouble with this. Right, once I plug this in, it should just be on, so it should spin up its own fans. And there they go. Now, which way are they spinning? Oh. Yep, they're blowing that way. So in fact, this side needs to face outwards. I had forgotten how horrible this stuff is to cut. That's my 2 holes, and these are obviously going to sit there. If I've got room, they're going to sit on the inside. Well, I'm not sure whether I've got room or not until I put the insides back in. I found some self-tapping screws that are too long, and I've cut a little bit of rubber tubing to go over it, and the idea is, if you can see the fan is there, the idea is to get the self-tapping screw in, line it up as best you can, hope that you're in the right place with the hole that's in the back there that I've now drilled, and screw that in, and with a little bit of luck the rubber will go in. None of you warned me, did you? I put the fans in backwards so they were blowing inwards instead of blowing outwards, so I'm just putting them back in for the second time. I allowed for 2 more bolts, but you can see there's no way I can get 2 more bolts in, and I also managed to cut this too short, which meant that it was supposed to tack all the way around the edge here, but it can't. So at the moment it's just going to go over the top like that. It doesn't really make that much difference. Just want to make sure that that is tight, because I only did it temporarily just to test it. No, that's not tight. Right. So in theory we should be able to put our lid on. And of course I've never really done the lid up before because I've always wanted airflow. But now, when I turn it on, I should have airflow. Now there is no actual on-off switch on this, because I didn't think there'd be much point, because the only time I'm going to plug it in is when I want it on. Right, I'll turn it round that way so that you can see the business end. I'll plug it in, the lead's a bit short, and I'll plug it in. But if I turn the power off, there they've stopped. You can feel the air coming out. Whether you can feel any air being sucked in at the side here, I don't know. I would say the simple answer is probably no. When I get it to there, will it pull it over a bit? Oh, there it goes. Yes, it just does. I don't know if you can see that. I'll move it a fraction nearer. Oh, and then it's pulled it over. So yeah, so there's definitely air coming in the side and being pulled through. Right, this is the Proxxon belt sander I converted to 12 volts, so it started out as 240 volts. It was variable speed and now it's single speed, running off of a 12 volt motor. And as you can see, this does a great job of powering it. It's superb. It really is good. So this is a winner.